All right. So, and you all have seen on um, on Canvas that I've been posting the class recordings. Well, if not, they're there on under pages. I try to post every week our class recordings, so you can always go back and revisit them. So I think this one's going to be an important one, just because we're going to go over some technical information today.
I didn't know that, so good call.
Yeah, definitely go to pages, and you can sift back through what we've done. Okay. All right. Cool. Um, let me let me sort of reorganize my stuff here. I'm so glad some of you watched Roma. I really love that film.
Yeah, it's great.
All right, here we go. um, can you all see there? Can you all see digital camera basics?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
My
Yeah.
neighbor is watching TV really loud. Is it bothering you guys? Can you hear it?
No.
I can hear it. It sounds like a piano, but it's not bothering me.
Here, let me throw on my AirPods. One second.
All right. Is that better?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. All right. So, digital camera basics. Now, those of you who have your cell phone, download the Lightroom app. Also, I don't know if I said that last week.
You did.
I feel like I did. But download the Lightroom app and start using the camera. Familiarize yourself with the camera in the Lightroom app and put it in professional mode. Some of these things that we're going to be talking about in digital camera basics, it's the Lightroom app is going to free you up and enable you to sort of use some of these same functions. Okay. So there is some crossover here. All right. So before you shoot, you need to consider setting up the camera ISO. Do you remember what the ISO was?
Yes.
Cool. Throw it out there. What is it?
The brightness, exposure.
No. Exposure, you brought that up. That's good. Do you guys remember that there's 4 factors that determine exposure?
Yes.
What is it?
Shutter, ISO, f-stop. Shutter, ISO, f-stop.
And available light.
Yeah.
Yeah. So ISO, I mean, it can make your image brighter. It can make it darker also. But really the function of the ISO is the sensitivity of, in this case, the sensor to light.
Yes.
Okay. So some of you have talked about like your images being grainy or pixelated or fuzzy. So what's happening there is your camera is auto setting, or maybe not even auto setting, it's shooting in low light. But the ISO, it could be that the ISO is jacked up so high because your camera's trying to compensate for that exposure. Oh, we got a newbie here. So remember, that's what ISO is. Okay, it's the sensitivity. And as the camera becomes more sensitive to light, remember that the pixels get bigger, the images get fuzzier. So that's what that is. Okay. So first thing you're gonna want to do is set your camera ISO on your camera. Now, you know, I was ripping my hair out when I got this new camera because I didn't notice that it was shooting to auto ISO, which is basically the camera just auto adjusting the ISO to fit the exposure it thinks you want. So in an instance where you're trying to bracket, that just does not make any sense to have it set to auto, right? We should always be on manual.
Yes.
So definitely, you know, the ISO should be the first thing you set, and don't let it be in auto ISO. Okay, cool. File format. Now, moving from today on, those of you with your own digital cameras, you should shoot in a raw file format. That's essentially, we're going to go over it in a second, but it's sort of, you all still have your roll of film, right?
Yeah.
It's like shooting a roll of film, but you haven't developed it in the chemistry yet, and you haven't developed it into negatives. It's just raw images. It's just raw data. The camera has not done anything to the file. Now, when you shoot JPEG, what happens is the camera takes all that raw information, does some calculations, and converts it into a JPEG, right? So, you know, at this point, as we move forward and we're taking control of more and more things that we can control, it's important that you don't let the camera make those decisions for you, because the camera doesn't know what you shot. It doesn't know, and it's going to scrape away a lot of information in doing that. Okay, so a JPEG format is actually a smaller, inferior format to a raw file. The raw file is where it's at. Anthony, do you have a question?
Oh, I'm good.
Okay. So then the next thing, you want to set the camera's white balance. You can just leave it at auto white balance. No, let's change it. Let's change it. So we're going to change your white balance. We'll talk about white balance and we can decide later. And then you want to format the memory card. Now, when you format a memory card, does anybody want to take a stab at what that means?
You erase it.
Basically, yeah. You take, so instead of going, I don't know how many of you have done this with a memory card, but you go one by one and delete all your pictures so you can make space to shoot more pictures. That's obnoxious. If you put a 64 gigabyte memory card in your camera, you filled it up, you don't want to sit there and delete it one by one. So formatting the memory card is a way to just take all the information and scrape it away and start fresh. Okay. So especially, you know, you all have your computers, you said now, so it's like, start using that to download your images or whatever, if you're shooting on the camera, and then a DSLR, and then format your memory card so you have more space to create more content. Otherwise, you know, you're going to be fighting trying to fit imagery on your memory card, especially if you're shooting raw. Okay. Oops. Come on now. That's just the guts of the camera. What is important is right here. This is the mirror inside your camera. And when you take a photo, this mirror lifts up and then the sensor is behind it. Okay, unless you're using a mirrorless camera. In that case, there's no mirror, there's no moving parts, but this lifts up and lets light in. Okay, that's an important takeaway from that. All right, so megapixels. So film grain is in the shape of dots. It's sort of, depending on the kind of film, the dots have different shapes. They have different structures. So that's like where the different tonality information is, right? So the smaller the dots, the finer, the better, not better, but the almost your images will seem sharper with finer grain film, but with faster film or higher ISO film, the grain gets bigger, and when the grain gets bigger, your image kind of seems a little more gritty. Like this image shot by a famous Japanese photographer is pretty grainy. It's pretty gritty. And then so on a digital sensor, they're shaped like squares, right? The pixels are shaped like squares. Okay, but it's the same concept. It's each pixel contains information, right? In your image. And if you zoom in enough on your photo, you'll see your photo break down into squares. All right. So film, digital, you guys kind of see the difference, right? This the circle, the square. Obviously, it's a real bad digital image. Okay, so set your camera's ISO, 50, 125, 150, 200, 400, 800. You guys all kind of remember these numbers?
Uh-huh.
What did we end up shooting in class when we shot film?
400.
400.
Did we shoot 400 or 100? I don't remember.
We shot 400.
400, okay. So 400 ISO film is probably a cloudy day or something like that. And so that's why we shot the higher speed film instead of the 100. Now, today, is it raining still today?
Still a little cloudy.
Okay. So if it's a little cloudy, go ahead and set your ISO to 400. You know, I'll say this, as cameras get more and more expensive, as they change in price, they get better at shooting in lower light so that they become less fuzzy in lower light. So you start getting into 800, 1600, 3200, and your image still holds up sharp and nice. You know, back when digital cameras first started coming out, you never wanted to go past 400. It was really pushing it at 400. It's commercially, at least. But nowadays, yeah, they're getting better and better and better. Okay. Okay, so it depends on what kind of camera you have, where the ISO button is. But if it's up here, you typically hold down the ISO button, and you'll use this dial that's up by your thumb, and you can toggle through the ISOs that way. But again, depending on what camera you have, you can you just have to find the ISO. So this goes back to the cell phone thing. In the Lightroom app, there is a way to manually set the ISO when you're in the camera. So definitely try to learn and figure out how to do that, okay? All right, so we see the difference between ISO 100 and ISO 1600. Can you all see that? I don't know how sharp this is on
Yeah,
your.
I could see the different grains.
Yeah, yeah. It's actually, in this instance, when it's digital too, we call that noise. And again, like I said, 1600 ISO does not look so bad these days if you have a higher end DSLR or mirrorless camera. But you know, I would say regardless, it's best to try to keep your ISO as low as possible when shooting. But you want to be sure though that you have plenty of light to shoot at, say, 100 ISO, right? Yeah, this PDF, like I was saying earlier, it's 100 to 400 for best results. I kind of, for my own work, I try to stay between 100 and 400, just because I want that resolution to be nice. But I've definitely, in saying that, I've definitely cranked that sucker up nowadays, so I don't have to use my flash or something like that. All right, so choose a file format: TIFF, JPEG, or RAW. We'll never shoot TIFF in this class, so don't worry about that. JPEG, has its functions in the world, and RAW definitely has its functions. So when you shoot a raw image, like I said, it's just raw data coming into your camera, recorded onto your memory card. Well, that data is a lot of it. So you could say, shoot, it depends on what camera you have and how many megapixels your camera is. But let's say, like, if you could shoot 400 raw photographs on a memory card, depending on what camera you have, you could probably shoot like 4,000 JPEGs. because what the camera is doing is taking the raw information and converting it and processing it down to a smaller file size. Okay, it adds a little bit of adjustments to it. When you shoot it, you'll notice that if you shoot raw and JPEG, you'll notice that your raw files are actually flatter. They don't have as much contrast, and that's because the camera adds some contrast. Okay, so can somebody take a stab at why somebody might want to shoot a raw image?
To preserve the details of the image, like your highlights and shadows and things.
Okay, but why?
It'd be used to post-process to process the image after. When you work with a JPEG, the more you do, the more pixelated it gets and grainy it gets. You gotta really play with it, and you have to kind of know what you're doing when you're playing with it. Whereas raw, you have a lot more control, and you could do a lot of subtle things and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key word there is control. You're both right. You're both right. I would take it even further and say, like, you know, we're making art in this class, right? And you all did so well in your cinematic assignment, right? Well, let's say that we're gonna make prints of these. Well, you want all that information possible to make a nice print, or you want all the information possible to, you know, you want to be able to zoom in, blow it up, or whatever. You want all the possibilities of control. It will come with raw, right? You can control you have the most control over your file. Now, JPEG, it is inferior in a way that you're talking about, in that you don't have latitude to make adjustments or manipulations. You can, but you can't go too far with it. Whereas raw, you have range, you have such dynamic range in highlights and shadows and color, right? And sharpness, like all that is in there. But JPEG does have a function in this world. Can anybody take a stab at why somebody might want to shoot JPEG instead of RAW?
If they're shooting like live to a TV or straight to Facebook or Instagram, because those are always going to be low format anyways.
Okay, yeah, that's true. Another reason too is, you know, like wedding photographers, maybe, like, do you want to shoot gigantic, massive raw files of like people like standing with their families, like, you know, like, hey, like at a wedding reception, do you want, and then get back to your computer and deal with like just gigs upon gigs of raw information? You know, I would, you know, I would say, like, yeah, maybe some wedding photographers shoot the ceremony in raw just to make sure they have all the information possible. Maybe someday the couple will like a print made or something like that, right? So that's when at a time it would be appropriate to shoot raw. You know, you're composing, you're taking your time, it's an important ceremony. But when you're at the party, maybe throw your camera in JPEG, and that way you can, even, the other thing is you can fit a ton more of JPEGs onto a memory card than you can a RAW. So they both have their functions in this world, right? But for this class, because it's an art class, what we're trying to do is make shoot raw images to make beautiful photographs, okay? I don't know if Lightroom will allow, the Lightroom app on the phone will allow you to switch formats, but if it will allow you to switch to RAW, definitely do it. If it won't, then JPEG it is, okay? Until we figure something else out. All right, file format effects. So image quality, you know, we talked about that. The image quality of a raw file is going to be much better because it's got a lot more data, a lot more information. Storage space on the memory card, we did go over that, right? You can fit more JPEGs. And changes the ability to adjust color, contrast, saturation. We talked about that, right? You have more range with a raw file. When I say more range, I mean like a ton more, okay? So JPEG stands for Joint Photographic Experts Group. I'm not going to quiz you on that. Don't worry. It's a lossless compression. What that means is every time you open a JPEG up on a computer, like say in Photoshop, and you close it, is you save it and close it and open it and save it and close it and open it. You're actually losing information every time you do that. Okay. So we have small file size, more images fit on the memory card. We talked about all that. It's average image quality, latitude for adjustment is very small. We talked about that. Okay, raw. The raw information is captured onto the sensor. We talked about that. There's no compression. We haven't talked about compression, but we'll skip that for now. Small file size. That's not true. It's large. The highest image quality requires additional software to view the image. So when you shoot a raw file on your camera, you can still look at the back of your camera and see what you shot. What's happening is the camera generated a tiny little thumbnail preview JPEG so that you can view it on the back of the camera. But you can't take a raw file and like put it in your computer and just open it up in whatever program. You need to, in order to make adjustments, you need to have a program that has a way to process the raw information. So in our case, Lightroom is that program, okay? And then greatest latitude for adjustments, we talked about that. I don't know different cameras. This is probably the camera that we have over at Mount Sac, the T7 or T3. This looks like, but you basically have to find the file format function and change it. Usually the verbiage in like Canon is quality. I forget what it is on my Nikon, but yeah, you're gonna have to find that on your own, okay? You might see these symbols, L with this like curve thing. So that's a large fine. That means it's like a high quality JPEG. And then you get all the way down here to small normal, which is a small, tiny JPEG. So in your cameras, you probably have a variety of different ways to shoot your JPEGs, the quality, right, of JPEGs. So you can probably fit a ton more of small normal JPEGs than you can large fine JPEGs. But you know, like I said, for this class, if you can shoot raw, then raw is where it's at. Then selecting white balance, sometimes it's just represented in just these little pictures, okay? Auto white balance is kind of like what your phones do. It takes the color of the light and it changes it, it balances it out to make it like neutral, like daylight, okay? You can set your camera though to any one of these white balance settings, and it won't adjust. It will just stay. You're telling your camera, I'm shooting in daylight. Now, if you set your camera and tell it that you're shooting in daylight, right? So you all can kind of see my face right now. I have this desk lamp that does both daylight balance and tungsten. So here I am daylight balanced, right? But if I change it to tungsten, see, it got much warmer, right? Well, if I shot it in auto white balance, the camera would have adjusted it both ways to make sure that it kind of looks like it's neutral, daylight balance, right? But if I set the camera to daylight balance and I shot myself like this with the tungsten light, then it's gonna come out real orange, real warm, right? And then going on, like shade is daylight balance, but it's adding a little bit of blue. Cloudy is more blue. Tungsten it's compensating, right? So it's going to add a ton of blue, like so that it could compensate for this orange light. Some cameras you can actually, you know, set the temperature, the color temperature, as a custom color temperature. We have flash. So flash and daylight balance are actually really similar because the flash is meant to be a neutral color light, not influence your image. And then fluorescent is like those like in factories or something, like those long fluorescent light tubes, and they're green. So typically it'll add a lot of magenta to your file when you're shooting. So typically, I mean, you could probably just keep it on auto white balance for now, but if you want to start toying around with them, I would auto or daylight. Now, here's the biggie with that. And we'll get into an assignment over this in soon, but this information, it actually, you set, like when you shoot your raw file, you actually going into Lightroom and setting the white balance later. So the raw file is just recording information. It's not making any white balance adjustments when it's recording the information. The white balance adjustment is more for when you're viewing the image on the back of the camera so you can see what you're gonna get. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Yeah. So it doesn't, it helps to have the correct white balance setting on set on your camera so that you can view what it is that you're photographing. You know, if I'm doing a self-portrait and I'm coming out super orange, well, it makes it hard to make manipulations or adjustments to the shooting process if I'm overwhelmed by how orange my face is, right? Then maybe I want to set it to either daylight or auto white balance so that I'm like, okay, now I got that out of the way. Now I can figure out, oh, maybe I want my hat on backwards. Maybe I don't want my glasses, you know, all those things. But it helps in the shooting process to have the white balance set to the correct white balance. And that being said, setting it to auto is fine, right? Just let the camera make the decision for you. But times that auto is not going to be helpful is maybe I'm going for this orange look. Maybe I don't want the camera to set it. In that case, I could probably change it to daylight balance, right? So I get this real weird orange color on my face. Okay, so that's white balance. We do have an assignment on that later, so don't stress too much about it. Setting it to auto white balance will be perfectly fine for now.
So I have it says pre and it shows a card. Are we going to learn what the card is all about later for white balance? I guess they show a picture of a person holding up a white card and then they're taking a picture of it and probably adjusting from there.
That's in your camera?
Yes.
Huh, what camera do you have?
I have a Nikon 3400.
3400, person holding a card. I don't know what that is. My assumption is the card is my assumption is you know, we've done there are things like color checkers. So like if you're shooting a portrait of somebody, you'll see like this like color checker come in, like on professional shoots, and they'll just do a quick shot of that. And then when they pull their image into whatever file editing software, they can pick a point on the color checker to say this is neutral, and then it'll adjust the color of the entire photograph. That's what my assumption is that is, but I'll have to look that up and see what that is. But you do have auto white balance, right?
Yeah, I have auto white balance, daylight, all the rest, but then it says white balance preset manual, and then it shows a person.
Okay, so that's probably more going down this road of color temperature.
Oh,
So
okay.
you can set, now you can see how the color temperature is, you know, they're represented in kelvins. So you have 160,000 Kelvin is blue and 18,000 Kelvin is red, basically, right? And then you'll see how it moves this way or that way. So 5,500 Kelvin is what we call neutral. Okay.
Okay.
So like you'll see down here, electronic flash, bright sunlight is 5,000, 6,000 Kelvin, somewhere in there, right? Fluorescent lamps are 3,300 Kelvin, so on and so forth. So that's probably what that is, but I can't be sure.
Okay.
All right, so the white balance on some of your cameras, it is represented by the WB. AF is autofocus, or AF mode, so you can change the way you're focusing. The drive mode and ISO button, we're not gonna go over drive mode, but ISO button is important, right? So you hold that down and you twist this dial and you can set your ISO. Your shutter button, you guys know that, that's just the trigger. So you have, on some of your cameras, you have a main dial and you'll have another dial right here, which is for your thumb. Usually one will control shutter speed and one will control f-stops. Some instances you have to hold down another button to toggle between f-stop and shutter speed and just use the same dial. Really sorry that it's hard to know what cameras you guys have and how the different interfaces work, but try to figure it out. You know, take this time to figure out how to adjust your f-stop and how to adjust your shutter speed and ISO.
You could probably
do that.
Sorry.
What?
Oh, I
Okay.
said you could probably find it on YouTube. That's what I had to do because
Oh yeah.
it kept making my ISO like super high, and I didn't know how to manually control it, and just getting these really bad grainy shots.
Yeah. So that was the auto ISO setting,
Yes.
right? Yeah. But if you know how to, so this is kind of true of a lot of things. If you know how to set your ISO, your shutter speed, and your f-stop, you're kind of good to go to shoot, right? All these other settings on this dial over here, these are all auto settings. All auto settings. So they're these the A, V, and the TV, those are semi-auto settings, but they're still auto settings, right? When you're in M and you know how to set your f-stop, your shutter speed, and your ISO, and white balance, even say, throw that in there, you're good to shoot, man.
Roger.
You know, as long as you have the right file format set up and like all that, you're good to shoot. All right, we're gonna skip that. Okay. Formatting your memory card is different from erasing it. By formatting a card, it erases everything on the card and will create a new folder. You know, this, I'm gonna say, yeah, it needs to be done every time you have a new photo shoot, but also an understanding that some people have like all their family photos on a single SD card for, you know, 10 years. Like, that's really sketchy for obvious reasons. But don't try to use that memory card if you don't want to erase that memory card for this class. I would definitely say bite the bullet and go grab pick up another memory card for the class. Okay, if you're just using one single memory card to store your everything and you don't want to put it in your computer and download the images for some reason, I would highly recommend that you get another memory card.
So I have a question about saving. What is the most reliable place to save? I have my stuff saved in like 3 different spots, but like if I didn't have all that, where would be the most reliable place for me to save work?
I mean, you know, the cloud is the biggie, right?
But does it save? Is it reliable?
I mean, it's as reliable as anything, I think. Like, you know, a hard drive is not a matter of if that hard drive is going to fail, it's when.
Yes.
It is going to fail. So yeah, I mean, the most reliable thing is the first thing you said, where you said you have it in 3 different places, backups. That's ultimately, at the end of the day, that's the most reliable thing. Have it in the cloud, have it on a drive, and maybe have it on a hard drive somewhere else in case, you know, God forbid your house burns down or something.
Right.
You know,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I have like a set of hard drives at my parents' house. All right. that's it. Let's move on. So I hope that helps. I'll even load that into the onto Canvas if you guys want, so you can refer back to it. Cool. All right, so let's go to Lightroom. So I do have Lightroom Classic also. So can everybody see my Lightroom?
Yes.
Okay. So here, you know, I'm gonna quit and I'm gonna just start it over. Maybe. Okay. So I have my Lightroom down here in my dock. Okay. It's represented by this LR. I'm gonna click it. It's gonna bounce around for a second, and it's gonna turn on. So now, make sure you guys download Lightroom into your computers, like I said. But here it is. Okay, this is essentially the first opening interface. We have these different tabs up here, these different functions. For the most part, we're only going to be going through these two, library and develop. Eventually we'll get into print a little bit, but I'll tell you all that I've never needed web, slideshow, book, or map. but they're there, and maybe in a future day we can go over them. But really, develop, library, and print are the only ones that we're going to use in this course. Okay. So library, think of it as a way to sort of navigate through your images, okay, and finding your images and organizing, rating, doing things like that. That all happens within library and Lightroom, okay. Develop is a way that we start making all kinds of manipulations with sliders, okay. And then you have some tools up here. And then we have ways of sharpening and lens corrections here. We'll go through all of that in a second, but that's what develop tab is. And then print tab we use for making contact sheets, which we never even got a chance to make. We never even got a chance to make the contact sheets in the darkroom. So my apologies. That's always kind of really fun, but yeah, those are three tabs that we're gonna work on. But before we get anywhere into doing that, we have to have this conversation about what we call Lightroom catalogs. Okay, so the way Lightroom functions is, you're taking your raw file or your images. Okay, today I'm going to take some JPEGs. Not that I shot JPEG, I shot RAW, but I converted them into JPEGs. But I'm going to take those JPEGs and import them into my Lightroom. Okay, now we have this thing called a catalog, and what the catalog is it's essentially a file that all the information from Lightroom that is being made gets recorded onto this catalog. Okay, and what that means is, Lightroom is a way that you can work on your raw files that does not damage them at all. It does not affect them. What it does is, when you import a file into Lightroom, it's creating a digital thumbnail of the file. And when you make manipulations, it's making manipulations to the thumbnail. And then when we want to go and convert that raw file into a JPEG or into a TIFF or whatever it is that we need to use, it's like all these sliders become like a recipe, become ingredients for a recipe. And when you process it out, you put the ingredients all together and you create something new, a new file, a JPEG or a TIFF. We will go over the differences between those file formats later, but just know that that's what that means. Okay. It's like a recipe or something. It's like cooking. Okay. So, but what that means is, and the part that gets a little bit wonky and it just becomes a little bit hard to manage if you're not careful and you're not organized. Okay. It's best to keep as organized as possible. So I'll show you how I do that, okay? So, so I have a set of images on my desktop that I'm gonna import into Lightroom. Now, first step I'm gonna take is, I'm gonna create a new catalog, okay? I don't wanna record to this same catalog that I've been working on. This is my own big work catalog for all my artwork. What I'm gonna do is create a new catalog. So I'm gonna come up here to File and New Catalog, okay? And then I'll show you how it gets represented later. So on my desktop, I have a Photo 10 folder. I have all these JPEGs. So I'm gonna save my catalog into that folder, and we need to give it a title. So we'll call this Lightroom Intro Catalog. I don't know, Lightroom Intro, okay? And it's gonna record into my Photo 10 catalog. I'm gonna hit Create. It's asking me if I want to back this catalog up. I don't, not right now. It'll take forever. So skip. And so it closed down Lightroom. It's generating a catalog, and then it's going to open it back up. Okay. So let me show you all. Right here, Photo 10. That's the folder, right? If I scroll all the way down here, you see that Lightroom intro box folder. If I click that, here's all this subdata information, but in the middle here, there's Lightroom_intro.lrcat, which is Lightroom catalog. That is where all the information is going to be stored. That is where the thumbnail previews of all your files are going to be stored. That's not where your raw files are going to be stored, though. Notice my raw files are still here, okay? They're not, it doesn't move them into this catalog. The catalog is just data information about the raw files, or the thumbnail previews. All that stuff is in the catalog. It's not the files themselves. Lightroom's whole purpose is to not destroy raw files. You never take a raw file and manipulate it. You're taking a thumbnail preview of it, taking a set of instructions, you know, your recipe instructions, and then you're taking the actual raw file information, then they put them together and they create a new file. But it never took it never took the actual develop information and made adjustments to your raw file. I'll show you what that means. Okay, so here's my new Lightroom interface that's been generated because I created a new catalog. It's fresh, there's nothing in here yet, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come over here to import, and I'm gonna import all those JPEGs that I created, okay, that I have, okay? So what I'm gonna do is hit import, and I'm gonna come over here to I have to locate them. So over here, Macintosh hard drive, users, Roshi Clark, it's on the desktop, it's in Photo 10, there it is. There's all these images, okay? I don't know how many there are. But now you will see that you have these different options up here. We have copy as DNG, copy, move, or add. When you're shooting your images, you actually have the opportunity to plug your memory card into your computer and hit copy. And not only is it going to copy the images from your memory card onto your computer, but it's also going to add the thumbnail previews to Lightroom. That's pretty convenient. In this case, and what I want you guys to do right now, I just want you to shoot your images, and I want you to just load them onto your computer the normal way you do, and then go through Lightroom and we're going to add them. Okay, I don't want to go through that step of copying right now. We'll go over that later. Okay, so for your homework, all you need to do your normal method of how you use whatever ways you get your images onto your computer. I don't know if you drag and drop, or if you have PCs. I literally have no idea how you do it. But this is how you do it on a Mac. You just highlight it and drag and drop it, okay? So in this case, okay.
Same thing with a PC.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna hit add, okay? And what it's gonna do is, actually, hold on real quick before I go over there. This panel right here is your source, okay? Think of it as your source, where it's coming from. This middle panel is the literal files, okay? And then the command, what you want those files, what you want to tap into those files. And this window over here is your destination. Now, you're going to see it says to my catalog. That's fine, because it's generating those thumbnail previews. We already have the catalog open. It's good to go. When you do copy, it's a lot more steps because you really have to navigate where to take the files and copy them to. But for this instance, and because you're on your own computers, just drag and drop, and then we'll add them to our catalog, okay? Build previews, that's fine. I like don't import suspected duplicates. It'll know already if you have these exact files loaded into your computer, and it won't let you add them. You'll see it's kind of grays them out, okay? We're not going to deal with collections today, so just don't import suspected duplicates should be the only thing. And then you'll see this import button in the bottom right corner. Click import, and it's importing currently, and you'll see the progress bars up here, okay? Let it do its thing. And voila, it's imported, okay? So the last thing that I'm going to show you guys today is once it's imported, you can see the images right here, right? You can kind of click through them, but they're small, okay? You can take this thumbnail slider and you can make it bigger that way, right? Or you can make them much smaller. If you go over to any one image and you double click it, it'll make it big. You guys see that? And now you can use the arrows on your keyboard and you can just toggle through the images and see what you've got. Now, if I want to go back to that grid view, I personally like to just double click it, but you can click right here, the grid, and it'll bring it back, boom. You can come to another image, you can hit the single view, and you can view it that way. Okay, you can, there's different views that you can, there's different views that you can sort of see your images. If you want to compare and see which ones are better. There's also comparing like this. Oops. There we go. Things like that. But personally for myself, I will use the grid view to sort of navigate my images, and then I'll use a single view to view them, okay? So that's how you view them. So what I'm looking for your homework assignment is, does everybody know how to do a screen grab on their computer?
Yes.
Okay, Anthony, yes. Who was that? Was that Jeffrey?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Tomasa, do you know how?
No, I'm sorry, no.
Okay. Are you on a Mac?
No, I have the Microsoft.
Yeah.
Okay. Thomas, what about you?
What screen? What screen
A
grab?
screenshot or a screen grab?
Oh yeah, I know the screenshot on Mac.
Yeah. On a Mac, I know it's just if you hold Shift Command and push the number 3.
Yeah.
4 is good. 4 means that you like drag and say where you want. But if you do Shift Command 3, it just takes a picture of your whole screen. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
No, did you just want us to screenshot the result?
Yeah. One second. Paulina, do you know how to do it?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So Tomasa, what I'm looking for is by next week, by next class, I just want a screenshot like this of your own images, meaning that I see that you figured out how to import your images, and then for next week we'll start developing and doing all that stuff. Okay.
Okay.
So that's why I was asking if you know how to screenshot, just so you can do that, and I know that you can import your images. Okay.
Okay.
But so you'll have to figure out how to do that on your computer, because I don't know how, but I'm sure it's just a Google search away.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just something. Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
Anthony, did you say you're on a PC?
Yes. All it is on your keyboard. There's a button called Print Screen, and you hit Print.
Yeah.
So then you have to have Photoshop open and hit like Control New or make a new file, and it'll automatically, if you say from the clipboard, it'll make the dimensions of your screen, and you just print OK, and then paste the image into the artboard. It's kind of hard. And then if you're on a Windows 10, there's also Snippet, which is a program that you can open up, and it'll allow you to do it and make it as big as you want and crop it and all that.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Good luck. Yeah, I mean, if anything, take a photo of with your phone of your
Okay.
screen or something. You
Yeah.
know, don't kill yourself on making a screen grab. I'd rather you take more time learning more about Lightroom. In that instance. Okay. Last thing I want to talk about too, on this left side of the library tab, you'll see Macintosh HD with the little green rectangle. That is the hard drive, right? That's my computer's hard drive. And now that Photo 10 folder is there. Okay. And so as you import, images from folders, the folders show up here, and you begin to navigate. You'll be able to navigate here. Let's import one more thing. See what we got. Oh, I'll import my folder from yesterday's class. Okay, so you see I have my Photo 10 folder and now my Photo 24 folder, right? So I can navigate, I can click between the two folders. I can see my image, use my arrows and toggle through the images, right?
Yeah.
And then I can come back here to Photo 10, do the same thing, right? And go through my images that way. Okay. Sorry, y'all. That's about all my my mouth is gonna allow me for today.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah. Is there anybody who's already a Lightroom user before this?
Yeah,
Yes.
for about
I took
2
photo 9.
weeks.
2 weeks. Okay, cool. And Thomas,
I
you
took
too?
photo 9. Yeah,
Oh,
I
you
took
did
photo
take
9.
photo 9. Okay, cool. Cool.
Yeah.
So this is just review for you.
Yes.
Okay, cool. The rest of us, yeah. This is the beginning of this portion of the class. Okay, so it's from here on, we're going to be using Lightroom to manipulate your images. If you're using a cell phone to capture your images, still the same thing. You're going to have to get your images from your phone into Lightroom. I believe there's a way to sync up the Lightroom mobile app to your Lightroom Classic. I'll look into that. But for next week, just figure out how to get your images, the normal way, however you get them off your phone into your computer. You probably plug it in or something, right? Tomasa?
Oh yeah, I just plug it in with the cable and open the
Download it.
file. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. All right. So let me just stop sharing here for a second. Where are we? Again, really good job on the cinematic assignment, you guys. That was you exceeded my expectations. Assignments. Okay, yeah. So I haven't published this yet. I'll publish it by the end of today. But I want you to shoot a minimum of 36 images. Anybody know why I picked 36?
Is that how many we can shoot on a roll of film?
Exactly. Good job.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want you to shoot a minimum, and I say minimum of 36 images. Shooting digitally, it's very easy to shoot more than 36 images, right? Because you can see what
Yeah.
you're doing and just keep adjusting, keep adjusting, keep adjusting. But I want a minimum of 36 images, and I want you to look around your house, okay, and find alternative sources of lighting, right? So I showed you like my desk lamp, right? And shot it. Some of you have noticed the beautiful window light that comes through your front living room window at a certain time of day. Or, you know, from myself, my bathroom has a really nice window with this weird texture glass. And when the light hits the texture glass, it looks really beautiful. There's LED lights, there's desk lamps, like I said, there's regular lamps, there's the overhead ceiling lights, there's refrigerator lights, there's cell phone lights, right? All these different sources of lights that are around your house. Now, I don't mean say take 36, find 36 different kinds of light. I just mean shoot a minimum of 36 images while you walk around your house and look for different kinds of light. Okay? And I want you to make thoughtful, composed photographs. No snapshots. Okay? Does everybody remember that whole snapshot conversation?
Mm-hmm.
No snapshots. Make art. Okay? But take a look around. It's like it's a study. Where are you guys? I don't see you. You've disappeared on me. There you are.
Here.
Yeah, so I want you to go around your house and I want you to find these different sources of light, and I want you to make some nice photographs using different sources of light. Okay, even consider using the on-camera flash on your camera if you have one, or on your cell phone. That's a source of light, right? Whatever you can find. I want you to shoot 36 images, and I want you to put those images on your desktop, on your computer, or wherever, on PC. I don't know. Can you put it on desktop on the PC?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Why don't we do that just for parity's sake? Put it on the desktop and create a Lightroom catalog, a new catalog, and import those 36 images and do a screenshot and just upload the screenshot. Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's one assignment. Okay, and the other assignment is it's on the discussions page. I'm gonna post a video it's about staged photography, like when people set photography up, not like street photography, but it's staged. I think it's a little less than 30 minutes, but just watch it. It's really interesting. I thought it was really cool, and then all I want you to do in the discussion is to just talk about your favorite photographer in the video and why. Okay? It doesn't have to be a whole page or anything like that, but just so I know that you watched it. Okay? Simple enough, right? Should be an easy week. Okay?
Yep.
Any questions? Jeffrey, you're there?
Yes.
Yeah. So you came in a little late, but I think I was recording by the time you came in. So I think you can go back and see what you missed.
Yeah, it said I joined right when it started recording.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah,
Sweet. Oh, you caught everything that we said.
Yeah, in the
All right,
beginning, you started with setting up your camera, basically.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I mean, what you missed was essentially just we going through some of the images that people shot for the assignment, the cinematic assignment. But yeah, cool. All right, everybody. If there's no other questions, I'm gonna go take a painkiller now and wish my mouth didn't hurt. Yeah, I'll be around until 2:30 like normal. So if you have any questions, you can definitely email me, and then we can hop back on Zoom and discuss whatever you need.
Feel better.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. Is your email because when I push it, it puts like J Perez or something?
Oh, weird. Yeah, that's Jay. He runs the program. Do you want my email?
Yeah. Can I send you like if I take a picture I like, can I get like personal critiques?
Sure.
Cool. Okay, what
There,
is
I just
oh,
sent it to the chat. Yeah.
awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Good luck, and I'll see you all next week. Tomas, are you good? And Paulina, are you good?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
good.
good. I'm gonna figure it out Sunday, and if I have any problems, I'll just send you an email.
Yeah, please do, and I'll get back to you.
Okay.
Okay. Have a good weekend.
You
All
too.
right.
Hopefully
Have a
it's
good one. Bye.
better.